Glorious day, brother. My name is Rawa. I'm the founder of a men's empowerment movement called Bold and Centered. Just want to take a minute to acknowledge you for booking in a call with me. I don't take it for granted the men who entrust me in the support of guiding them on their awakening journey. So today's intention is to provide some information for you on what our movement's all about. So you can come into the call prepared with any questions, any insights, any concerns, and share with you a little bit about our four pillar sequence of men's initiation. The first one is nervous system regulation, cultivating safety within. The second one is activating our own inner authority and really embodiment to feel and to be in our bodies. Our third one is activating emotional strength and our ability to really stand in healthy conflict and create empowered communication skills. And the last one is the brotherhood. This is the nest that holds it all together, where we can be witnessed, we can be held, and where we can have truly lasting change. So, welcome, brothers, to the Bold and Center movement. I look forward to deepening with you. Ayaya. All right, brothers. You've come this far. You've looked at calling with me. I'm imagining you're aware of some of the work that I'm up to. And I'm just going to share with you some belief systems that many men hold in this day and age that could be really creating havoc in our lives. A lot of inherited patterns, programming, societal pressure, what it means to be a man. And I know from my own experience, it's been a real journey of reclamation of my own personal power and sovereignty. So some of the challenging beliefs that many men are faced with in just in this day and age is primarily the foundational one is the lone wolf syndrome. This deeply embedded belief that we need to go at it alone, that vulnerability is weakness. It's not safe to express our true feelings and our emotions. We won't be held. This is tied into some deeper wounds, which usually a lot of men can relate to. The fatherhood wound of having an unavailable emotional father who wasn't there and creating dependency on the mother and women. This is something that I deeply relate to. Now, this may not be applied to you. However, this is something that I see as the most common thread amongst men is this lone wolf syndrome that we need to go at it alone. So, once we cultivate healthy brotherhood, this is something that can drastically shift. So what other belief systems are out there that are really challenging for man? There's a lot of conditioning on how it is they're supposed to show up in a relationship with women. Always be strong, be this provider, don't show weakness, right? And there's a lot of conditioning too in some of our thought leaders that have this polarity power. If a man's got to be providing this certain sense of safety, which we are here to do, but there's nothing wrong with us being authentic in our expression of where our fears lie. What is it that we are holding on to that needs to be expressed, and vulnerability. So these are some of the pain points that many men deal with. I also, from my own personal experience, it's been a journey of reclamation of feeling in my body, in the safety to truly feel. I lived from my neck up, constantly in fight or flight, making decisions that are just based on sheer logic and no connection to my body, to my intuition, to really what is the heart speaking from, and what does the heart want to say, and how does it want to lead, right? So I find that that's a huge belief that men have is that we have to always be logical and thinking from that space. The mind serves a purpose, but generally, if the heart's in the command, we're living a much more fulfilled life. So many men out there view vulnerability as weakness, right? What does it mean to ask for help? I know for myself, I spent 20 years drowning in my feelings, trying to suppress them all down. I had no tools on how to cope with grief, what it meant to be sad. And I was beating myself with a dummy stick. Oh, man up, buck up and deal with it. men are meant to be XYZ. It took me to the near brink before I finally had the courage to reach out, be vulnerable, and ask for support. So there's a misconception out there that vulnerability is weakness, where to me it's the greatest act of bravery and courageousness that we could possibly look for. So there's a lot of stigma around men's mental health in this day and age. Many men coping with their emotional difficulties or their mental health with addictions. Pornography is something that's prevalent. The usage is very destructive and amongst our relationships. Addictions to screens, addictions to working, and the list goes on, really, of how we can possibly numb out and distract ourselves. So these are all impacts that create tremendous effects in our lives, right? Like, it's important to get really present to what are the impacts of these choices and who suffers when we're living inside of that fight or flight mentality, right? Disconnected from our own heart space. So this is the foundation of it all, is really putting this point of our arrowhead, our narrowed focus on cultivating internal safety, regulating our nervous system so that we can really feel all of life and listen to our insights and our guidance internally. So many men, they want to overcome these pain points, right? And they're aware of them, but something's just holding them back and keeping them stuck. Often at times I find that many have no clue many have no clue why. And again, the foundation is that nervous system regulation. Without being able to do this, we're just constantly in the mind, fight or flight, crappy sleeps, and then we flow into, from there there's no access to our own inner authority, right? So without a regulated nervous system, it's nearly impossible to receive the messages that our body's intelligence wants to say to us. What are your firm fuck yeses and what is your firm fuck no's? And having the capacity to really cultivate firm boundaries and express them in ways that are healthy, right? It's the embodiment, to be safe in the body, to really feel, and from there we can access that inner authority. When you have trouble resting, how do you restore your energy? If the mind is constantly going, the endless to-do list, the tasks that need to get accomplished and be done, I've been there and I've suffered through this for a long time. I spent 20 years repressing all of my emotions. The last 10 years has been all about putting Humpty back together again, right? So, these are all symptoms that I struggle with immensely. And it's been a journey of reclaiming my own capability to feel and to surrender the mind and to trust into the body's intelligence. So, these symptoms wreak havoc in our lives, from our decision-making ability, what we're saying yes to, compromising, what that really feels like a no. How often at times do you keep your truths refrained out of potential fear of being punished or not going to be welcomed, fear of loss of love. So that's the apathy side of our shadow. And then there's the dominant side. Many men go into over controlling and they leave no spaciousness for other people's opinions, or they feel threatened by somebody else's opinion. These are all symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system and a lack of true inner authority and embodiment. So we really discover, what parts have been operating in the unconscious and bring them to the light and really repattern who that inner authority is to take action that's rooted in our intuition and what it is that's truly aligned with the service we want to provide for the world. All right, brothers. So what this is not is mindset training that ignores the body's intuition and intelligence. What this training is not is go harder, more discipline at the cost of a dysregulated nervous system. What this is not is cultivating vulnerability without a proper container to hold you in. What this is not is emotional bypassing of grief, of anger, of rage, of sadness, and a lot of the other conditioning that a lot of men have gone through in this society, in this time that we live in. What this is not is talk therapy that ruminates and can often spin the same old stories over and over again. This is going into it somatically and repattering the neural operating system. So these are some of the things that separate the work that we do here, and it's all deeply held inside of this brotherhood womb, which is the true glue for a man's personal transformation. So the last two pillars, emotional strength, when a man can really cultivate his capacity to receive the projections and the challenges from the outside world, be able to sit in his sovereignty and not react to the triggers, and really come to his center quickly and accordingly and take action really that's aligned with his deepest truth, that's when you truly activate personal power. So this helps us cultivate deep tools in communication where we can embrace friction as a means for growth. And it really becomes an incredible tool. You become that anchor and that pillar for safety for our loved ones, for safety for our partners, safety in business, where people can come and process their challenges and you're no longer absorbing or taking it on or being controlling or people pleasing. Fourth pillar is the glue to it all. This is the brotherhood nest where a man can truly be witnessed and be seen in his deepest expression of authenticity. This is a place where a man can collapse into when he needs to express grief, go into sacred rage and his anger. Without containment of that, it can burn a trail and blaze away a destructive path. So the brotherhood to me is the key ingredient to the real lasting change. You know, this is a brotherhood that's going to witness you and hold you into becoming the man that you're claiming yourself to be, to hold you accountable to what it is you want to achieve in this lifetime. You know, we're not here to fix anybody. We're here to witness. And this alone is very transformative for so many men. And this work here was exactly the catalyst for this movement. I had done so much personal development, self-help, plant medicines, but sitting in council with men who truly gave a shit about my well-being and held me to the fire of transformation, held me in my rawest, most authentic expression of self, this to me was my medicine and why I'm such a stand to create brotherhood. So this is the sequence, this is the work that we're up to. Really allow this to sink in, reflect on it, you know, these old belief systems, potentially some of them that are outdated. I know for myself, it took me a long time before I finally had the courage to get support, invest in myself energetically, monetarily, and really break through some limiting belief systems that held me in confinement to old ways of being, you know, old thought patterns, you know. And one of the greatest teachings I received was from one of my Andean wisdom keepers when I was going through an initiation with an indigenous tribe called the Queros, and they're known as the spiritual advisors of the Incan Empire. And a woman shared with me, she's like, right before you go through the initiatory experience, all of your stuff is going to come up. Your resistance, sometimes it can come up in the form of physical ailments even. And these are the old parts of us that are resisting change. So it can come about in very logical, plausible things of why we can't take that next step. So the invitation is to really be mindful of what thought forms, old belief systems are keeping us, sabotaging us from really elevating and getting the support that we need to rise. So I hope you receive some value in this. Looking forward to dropping in. Come with your questions, come with your insights, come with your concerns. And lots of love, brothers. Yeah, yeah.